Everyone, Pantoufleee here today for a new video in which we're going to talk about the most unpopular tank at tier 10 when it comes to the heavy class, aka the T95E6. I would say that there are two reasons for the T95E6 not to be played too much by people. First of all, because it's a collectible and therefore you have to pay for it, which will obviously put aside all the free-to-play players. But most importantly, people tend not to play it because that thing is not necessarily the greatest tank ever, simply because of its playstyle, its overall aesthetic, and especially its weaknesses. It's quite hard to make it useful on the battlefield regarding the fact that you already have much better heavies. But even if this one is not in the top 5 best heavies at tier 10, you can't say that this is not an effective one, because if you play it wisely, well, you can do quite a lot with it. And the thing is, a lot of people tend to think that this tank is limited to a heavy playstyle, which is not the case. In fact, you need to consider it to be a medium tank, a well-armored medium tank, but still a medium tank. And for that, I would give you some reasons to believe what I'm saying right now. First of all, we're going to talk about the speed. The top speed is 42 kilometers per hour, but your average speed is 37, which is quite high considering we're talking about an American heavy tank. Which means that with this tank, most of the time, you're going to go around 40-45 kilometers per hour if you equip it wisely with the right provisions. So yeah, in the end, you get yourself something that is really close to the medium mobility. On top of that, the gun is just insane. 2.8k DPM, it's really good. The gun dispersion, even if it's not the best, will still do the trick. 8.5 seconds of reload, allowing you to compete with mediums. The penetration is quite fine, 258 with your regular, 340 with your gold shell. Average damage per shot, I was about to say per shell, 400, which is the traditional one for a 120mm gun. And finally, 10 degrees of gun depression, allowing you to be extremely versatile on the battlefield and especially on hilly terrain. Now we're going to talk about the downsides of it, because yes, there is a huge one, which is the cupola right there. For the people that play the game 2, 3, maybe even 4 years ago, you remember that the T125 used to have this cupola. Nowadays, it's not the case anymore, but still they decided to put it on a tank you have to pay for, the T95E6. And all I gotta say is that it's really easy to get penetrated into this weak spot. So your only chance to actually be effective in all down with it is to wait for your opponent to either shoot, and after you go out of your position, you sink your shell and you go back to a safe cover from which nobody can shoot you, or you try to show only this part of the tank, if I take it frontally right there, the right part here, because at least if you only show this and wait for your enemy to bounce on your side armor, then after you can poke around the corner and not be afraid of getting shot at in the cupola. So, what about the playstyle? For this, we have the pleasure of watching a replay played by Excellence, which is in the clan Kraken S, so a French clan. So shout out to you guys for being French. That's all. I'm shouting out to everyone on this channel that is French. And he's playing with his T95E6. And all I gotta say about the tank itself is that the playstyle is really hard to master. Simply because you have to switch between peekaboo, which implies that you go out of your position, you sneak your shell, and you go as fast as possible into a safe cover from which nobody can shoot you, and an all-down position, which is you staying in front of your opponents and praying for them not to penetrate your cupola. And the main problem of such a thing is that if you're not map aware and if you are not experienced with the game, it's really hard to know when to switch to either one of those playstyles. But here, our friend is doing it magically against the IS-7. As you can see, the great DPM allowed him to nearly finish off the target by himself. He now went straight in, and when he shoots one time, the IS-7 will shoot only... when he shoots 2 times, the IS-7 will shoot only 1 time. Sorry about this one, guys. Now, of course, a lucky shot doesn't hurt anyone. He killed the IS-7, securing already 2k damage. And now he has a great advantage over the 60 TP right there. He can sneak some shots while using his 10 degrees of gun depression to come back to a safe cover when it's needed. So there we go, he sneaks in another one on the Yak Panzer, but he has to be careful. Unlike an IS-4 or T125 or these kind of tanks, it can't roll against the Yak Panzer. And you see clearly how this tank is meant to be played in this situation. Here, unlike the other heavies, and I'm gonna highlight it to you right now, You see that the Chieftain is trying to play aggressively because the Chieftain is known to have a really great turret armor, so he can actually sustain. But when it comes to the T95E6, all this armor is cancelled by the fact that you have a cupola. So instead of pushing in and taking the risk of getting shot at in the cupola and get penetrated, our friend is waiting for the Chieftain to bounce shells from the opponents before poking around and sneaking his shots. And this way, as you have a great DPM, it will allow you to first be a good support for your team, but most importantly, do not lose unnecessarily hit points. And it's gonna help you quite a lot, especially in the end game, and you're gonna see this. So there we go, our friends are playing aggressively right now, and he has to still be careful about what he's doing. He has the possibility of either going on the Badger or going on the Yo, but now he's kind of stuck in his position, because at first he wanted to push the Yo, I saw that, but he realized that it was maybe a little bit too late for this. Really great job from him to decide to switch off to HE while shooting at the 30B, and the lucky bounce, no, not the lucky bounce, sorry, he got penetrated by the 60 GP. And now our friend, thanks to his mobility, is able to escape. But this comes to a price, and the price is only 700 hit points remaining. Now he's pretty much lonely against 3 guys, and he has to play carefully. He has one big advantage over them. The M6O is a one-shot if played correctly and if the RNG is with him, but the 30B is a one-shot as well. All he has to do is pushing through, even if it means taking a shot, to be able to turn this battlefield into a 1 versus 2 rather than a 1 versus 3. And now all he has to do is dealing with the M6O. And I love the fact that he's choosing wisely his targets. He first went for the AMX 30B because it's the most mobile and probably the only one that could annoy him. He is completely leaving the Badger to better things because the Badger is not a threat in its current state right now, and is now focused on the M6O Pride. He only needs to sneak one in the guy in order to make him a one-shot, and after being able to kill him and to circle the Badger, but it's gonna take some time. It's gonna take some time, a time that it doesn't have, simply because unlike the regular battles where you have a 7 versus 7, here you have the time running against you, but also if the Badger wanted to come help the M6O, it would have been a problem. Here, our friend is extremely lucky that the Badger is AFK, because it means he only has to deal with the Pride in order to win that game. And he's not gonna bother. He's afraid that maybe the Badger will come back to the game, which means that he needs to kill him as soon as possible. So he goes for the tracks, which is a really good thing to do right now, and he's gonna sneak all the AP. He's trying to bait right there to pretty much spot the Yo, and it worked perfectly. 7.2k damage already, and now he has to deal with the Yo. Unfortunately for him, if the Yo decides to push, it's over. But yeah, let's say that the Yo already failed with this one. He has the 2-shell gun, he shot one. Even if our friend goes in right now, it's going to be impossible for the Yo to do anything. So there we go, he's reloading, our friend knows it, and he's no longer afraid of the guy. He's going to switch to hit shell, securing his 7 kills, and by the way, winning for its entire team, featuring a 7.7k damage game. Obviously, it's going to be an ace tanker, and you already know that. And whew, if it was in the 8.5 update, let's say that our friend will probably load up nearly 1 million credits with this one. So as you can see, you saw 3 different playstyles. The mobility, playing with the rest of your team, not being alone to be able to be useful and supportive toward when you saw against the Jagdpanzer E100. After being aware of its surroundings, knowing when to escape, like you saw when he was on the cap circle, and finally securing the right kills at the right moment. AMX 30B because of the mobility, M6O Pride because of its turret, and finally the Badger because it's the less threatening one as soon as you circle it. And our friend showed us this perfectly, and I want to thank him for sending me this replay. So if you're seeking to get yourself a T95E6, keep in mind, guys, that this thing is extremely hard to master and extremely hard to play correctly. So it's definitely a tank made for advanced player, and that's it. So if you enjoyed, feel free to subscribe, like, and share, and personally, I'm going to see you soon for a new video.